So my studio always were next to the Botanic Garden. Rio is exquisite, I think, like one of the most beautiful cities in the world. And I grew up on the beach, like in Copacabana. So these were always part of my life, you know. And at the same time, thinking about Matisse and all his always work and all he developed on his painting. It was a kind of how could I cross these two words? My process in the studio always had a connections with collages, concepts, and meanings, because I developed this technique that now I decide to give a title, so it's a monotransfer, because it becomes too difficult all the time to explain. So these, it comes from I developed the motifs and things separately, and I paint on a plastic sheet, and then I transfer its motif afterwards to the canvas. And so when I had these images, I have different sizes, different kinds of motifs that could be a flower, could be a square, could be a line, but I have all of that on my hands. And so I can place and I can play around the canvas before I glue it. So this process has a connection with collages. I used to glue with fabrics. I never really painted only with paints. So I always use the cutouts of fabrics that comes from costumes like folk costumes, Brazilian folk costumes, and different kinds of fabric. And then I arrived at this technique in '89, which allowed me to develop my own motifs and images, and also keep the same kind of process that I had using cut out existing materials. I think it's about like the memory of the process. It's about imperfections, you know, and it's a kind of a painting, like being more clear about what that in Italian they call pentimenti, you know, like it is, you leave like more clear your process, not to be so, looks like that something comes from the sky, you know. I love this kind of hand, not hand gestures, but to make part of the work, the process of working on it. I have very subjective motivations many times. From one group of works to another, what I do normally is like, is to introduce to my process some new elements that I always hope will kind of bring a chain reaction and then make the work moving forwards. I don't really make sketch because I want to work with the real scale, so I don't draw as my practice in the studio. At the same time, it's a very controlled work, so I feel myself as a geometric painter, and it's absolutely controlled and rational, because I needed to create this kind of a system, and also so the explosion, a kind of explosion of colors are absolutely controlled. Politically speaking, I think it's more about like, I think me as an artist, as a woman, a painter, like from working in South America or in Brazil, and taking to the, you know, painting is always considered like the high art, you know. And so actually I brought from my own culture, like working with this carnival and all these things that comes from a real popular, the real pop part of my life in Rio, or my life or the Rio's life, taking it as a reference, as a motif, as an element of reference to my paintings is kind of a political attitude in the way, like how these two words would cross and developing maybe a new images, you know, or bring new imagery to the abstraction, the international abstraction art.